They're all over Washington, D.C. You stumble over them in the streets, trying to get in to find out what the real issues are. I think the taxes that we have in place, we should fight to maintain them. We should use a bipartisan group to make sure that they are retained, especially bringing over as many Democrats as we can to the Republican side to make sure they're in place.
Now go to rebuttal. Mr. Harvey.
Again, we would have to lower the personal income tax, corporate taxes, the capital gains tax in order to get the buying power back to the people. And once you do that, then that will generate for the economy. Also, one thing that everybody's competing against is the underground economy, where people are living day by day, week by week, cash only, and avoiding taxes altogether. And we got to compete with that, and plus what taxes we have to pay.
Mr. May.
Both gentlemen brought up a good point. Mr. Scott called it a flat tax. That's precisely why I didn't say flat tax or fair tax, because most people don't understand that. That's why I say tax on consumption and not production. And Mr. Hummel was absolutely right when he said you get the black market folks in. You've got the drug dealer that's out there that pays no taxes. If he's real sharp, he's probably getting welfare, Social Security on top of that. If we start taxing on consumption, when he goes out and buys that $200,000 automobile and all the diamonds and the gold and all that good stuff, he will be taxed on it. It will lower taxes on businesses because it's a falsehood that businesses pay taxes. They pass that tax through to the consumer on their end price.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Scott.
I'm really concerned when you look at people who are manufacturing their own money. Not only is there no tax involved, but there are billions of dollars that are being floated in this market. We need to clamp down on the people who are engaged in illicit activities. We need to cut the demand for drugs in this country. Every time we allow cocaine and other drugs to come in, a soldier in Afghanistan, a soldier in Iraq is subject to death. We must be patriots.
Thank you, sir. Gentlemen, now move on to our next question. The next question will start with Mr. May. Move on to the subject of health care. It is unlikely that health care reform will be repealed as long as Democrats are controlling Congress or Barack Obama is president. With that said, what is your plan as a Republican to mitigate the impact of the health care reform law, the health care reform bill that is now law? Mr. May.
Of the three of us up here, I'm the only one who's actually proposed a solution to this. I showed up with a group of supporters to Mr. Carson's office saying this is why you should not vote for this bill, and I didn't want to just be the party or the person of no. So I provided some alternatives. I'll go through these very briefly. We don't have enough time, but afterwards you're welcome to ask me more specifics. First off, we need to keep current employer-sponsored coverage if you are satisfied with it. Current employer plans should not be taxed to pay for the government takeover bill. Now, those without coverage, or if they're not satisfied with their current employer coverage, can be allowed to buy their own plan. Aside from that, pooling mechanisms and group plans for all. Control costs and cover pre-existing and chronic conditions affordably by allowing people to buy out-of-state insurance, and to also lower the cost with tort reform. Finally, you provide quality care efficiently. Indiana is a leader. We had the HIP program. Now it's eliminated. You know, if we let the states take the lead on this, we don't need the federal government telling us what we can and cannot do, or what we will or will not buy, and if we don't, we're going to get fined for it.
Dr. Scott.
I think a good place to start with tort reforms, and I certainly agree with you. There's too much litigation. This is a very litigious society in which we live. Therefore, people are always anxious to sue the doctor. And those bills have just gotten out of hand just buying insurance to protect themselves from the outside intrusion. Again, we need greater control. I have not read all of the health care bill. It's monumental. And once I finish it, I'll have something more intelligent and articulate to say about that. But at the moment, it's law, and it's trying to filter through all of those things that have been brought up that people are opposed to. There's just one thing I'm opposed to. It costs too much. We don't have the money, and we should not do it.
Mr. Harvey.
If we ever get a chance to repeal and replace, what we should do is definitely open up the interstate competition, fair competition with the health companies, and also tort reform. But one thing I think we should do as far as leaders in the House of Representatives and the Senate is that since the president gets his health care through basically through the military, I think that everybody that goes into Congress should get their health care through the VA. That way they will open up their eyes and see exactly what is going on. That way they will be equal and equal across the board.
Thank you. 30 seconds for a vote, Mr. May.
No rebuttal, just a final thought. Our budget is made up of two things, mandatory and discretionary spending. If we wanted to balance the budget today with this new bill, we would have to cut everything from our federal budget except for the Army and the Navy. Everything else would have to be gone. Mandatory spending, however, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, the new health care bill, those would have to be fully funded. So that's why we need to get away from this. What we've got is a little baby whale that looks nice and pretty, that's going to grow up and beat us to death with its tail, and that's called health care. What they don't realize is that it will grow.
Thank you. Dr. Scott.
Healthcare was never, in terms of, let's start with the Great Society, Medicare and Medicaid was never allocated funds. Social Security was now, in terms of the original two programs. We're not going to run out of money in either of those two programs by the year, especially old age benefits by the year 2030. The other one is looking at the year 2090. So I don't want to frighten people about that, but I can frighten you about Medicare, Medicaid, and this new health plan. We do not have the money, nor can we have enough people working to be able to meet those needs.
All right, sir. Mr. Harmon.
Well, according to the budget, the way it's set up, the way it's listed is that the money is, there's enough money to pay for Social Security and Medicare, and the areas that are in red for potential maybe IOUs is the Department of Defense and other departments and agencies in the U.S. government.
Thank you. Gentlemen, to piggyback on your question, it seems we're all in agreement with respect to tort reform as a way to bring down medical costs. However, according to the National Conference of State Legislators, 25 states currently have a version of tort reform that does include caps on damages. However, medical costs in those states continue to rise to the same degree as in states that do not have tort reform. So starting with you, Dr. Scott, is tort reform the answer to bring medical care costs under control?
Given the information you've just supplied, maybe not. I have not looked at that in a while. But I can tell you this, the less doctors have to pay out, it would seem to a reasonable person that it would lower costs.
Mr. Harmon.
It's just an element, and it's a combination of everything. All the variables together will bring down health costs. Just to say tort reform altogether, no. People taking care of themselves, being healthy throughout their lives, that's going to help.
Mr. May.
No, there is never any one single element that will solve any problem for any issue. Tort reform is just one facet of it. Now, Indiana has been a leader on this. You know, we actually have some strong tort reform laws on our books. That's a good thing. We're going to have to do some more things. Another thing is we can start to cut down on fraud, Medicare and Medicaid fraud, to the tunes of billions of dollars a year. That's what we should also start to look at. Aside from that, you open up insurance across state borders. We can already do that with car insurance. If you open up the borders and you allow insurance to be sold throughout, you're not going to buy the most expensive one that's Indiana-based. You're going to say, man, this one over here from California is 50% off. I'm going to buy that one. Or this one from Arizona, or New York, or wherever. So there is a number of things that need to be done. But we need to start by repealing portions of this healthcare behemoth that is, just like I said earlier, going to beat us to death once it gets in full effect.
All right, we have now 30 seconds for rebuttal. Dr. Scott, anything like that?
Agreed. It goes for the doctors, it goes for the medical profession. I can give you several examples in my own life where I've had to call into the hospital and say, you can't charge those prices. You know, it just can't be done. They don't listen to you. But greed, for some reason, has become quintessential in the American way. You know, whatever I can get away with, whatever the traffic can bear, I'll do it. And that's the mantra we must change in terms of our moral fabric in this nation. We are people of goodness.
All right, sir. Mr. Harmon.
I see this in my job daily where people are going in for medical treatments because they want to do it before they take on a new job. So right there could be fraud where they should hold off until they get their job and get their insurance.
Mr. May.
I believe I've answered the question.
Thank you. We're now at the halfway point through our debate. Gentlemen, thank you all very much for being close as time as possible. This next question is sort of a combination of two questions. One from Connie Ham, who is in the audience, and the other question is from Austin Hauser of Tell City. They both sort of come together. The state of Arizona, as you gentlemen all know, the governor of Arizona has signed what has been labeled as the most strict immigration reform bill in the country. Mr. Harmon, starting with you, what is your position on legal immigration and immigration reform?
I do believe we should have a fence on the north end,